Enrique Tarrio, the one-time leader of the far-right group, the Proud Boys, was sentenced to 22 years in prison.
It is the longest sentence yet, stemming from the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol.
And prosecutors argue that it was a squad of Proud Boys who first broke through the metal barriers protecting the Capitol, saying Tarrio watched the violence unfold and at 2:38 p.m. posted on social media saying, "Don't expletive leave.
Proud of my boys and my country. Don't expletive leave." Tarrio wasn't actually in Washington on January 6th, but prosecutors argued he galvanized the Proud Boys and committed a calculated act of terrorism, calling him not a leader, but the leader of the conspiracy.
The Proud Boys have been tied to former President Trump after he called them out by name when pressed during a debate.
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Tarrio's defense tried to portray him as a misguided patriot who was trying to save the republic, noting that he wasn't even there.
And that claim that Tarrio is a victim is spreading like wildfire across MAGA world. Charlie Kirk, founder and CEO of the conservative Turning Points USA, quote, "The Biden regime just sentenced Enrique Tarrio to 22 years in prison for a riot he was not present at, for plotting to overthrow the government without his followers carrying a single firearm. You live in a country with political prisoners." Political prisoners? Biden regime? The judge who sentenced Tarrio is Timothy J. Kelly. He was appointed by President Trump. Before that, Kelly was a counsel to conservative Republican Senator Charles Grassley and a member of the Conservative Federalist Society. And as for the claim that Tarrio should be absolved of any guilt because he wasn't actually in the Capitol on January the 6th, the judge declared, "You made that argument to the jury, and the jury did not believe it. He's convicted." The judge added that Tarrio was the ultimate leader of that conspiracy and has shown no remorse. Enrique Tarrio is not the only January 6th conspirator who's being held up by the lunatic right wing as a political prisoner or martyr. Ronald Maccabee is in jail for his January 6th actions. Maccabee's wife says the court system is unfair and that the federal prosecutors and judges are corrupt.
They are allowed to do and say whatever they want in these courtrooms. The prosecution's allowed to lie. The judge is literally allowed to say whatever they want, and they are getting away with it because there's no oversight. We have people in Congress that say they support us, and they tell us everything that we want to hear, but then there's no action.
And what was the action that Maccabee's husband took on January the 6th? Ronald Maccabee, a former sheriff, was wearing his sheriff's deputy jacket and spiked gloves as he beat police officers.
Prosecutors say these are still images of the silver-spiked gloves worn by Ronald Colton Maccabee, a former Williamson County, Tennessee sheriff's deputy. Friday, the Department of Justice released a body-worn camera video allegedly showing how Maccabee, in the red ball cap, allegedly used those spiked-covered gloves with reinforced knuckles to beat D.C. police officers. Here, as another D.C. officer lies motionless at his feet. Then watch right there as the man in that red ball cap pulls that prone officer back towards the violent mob, away from fellow officers trying to rescue him. The man, identified by the Department of Justice as Maccabee, is relentless in his assault on MPD, punching, grabbing, and grappling, all the while shouting violent threats at anyone within earshot.
So that guy who literally beat and bludgeoned police officers is being described by his wife as a victim. Now, I get that family and friends of literally anybody behind bars may feel protective of their jailed loved one and question if the system is fair. And it's not easy if you are related to Ronald Maccabee or Enrique Tarrio to see your loved one break down and cry in court, as Tarrio did at his sentencing. But the right-wing lunatics who argue this is all political and corrupt are proving their lunacy. The victims from January the 6th were the people who died as a result of that day, and the 140 U.S. Capitol police officers who were injured and permanently maimed. For the MAGA world to claim that the insurrectionists or their leaders are victims, well, that's outrageous. But that is where MAGA world stands these days. They can only think about themselves and their small-minded grievances. Thank goodness our justice system is operating as it should and sentencing the worst of the January 6th insurrectionists to decades in prison. By the way, one of the Republican U.S. senators who wasn't exactly a beacon of integrity or democracy after the 2020 election is Tennessee's Marsha Blackburn, while the Republican now has a 2024 Democratic challenger.
I'm Gloria Johnson, and I'm running for U.S. Senate.
Standing in front of the school where she used to teach in Knoxville, Democratic State Representative Gloria Johnson, one of the Tennessee Three who joined gun control protesters at the state capitol, announced she will challenge Republican incumbent Marsha Blackburn for the U.S. Senate in 2024. Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.